Most people think confidence is about talking louder, standing taller, or posting more pictures online. That's why they keep getting exposed the moment life tests them. The truth is, one single trait separates those who only appear confident from those who can't be shaken by anything. Today, you'll learn what that trait is and how to make it your greatest weapon. The mistake most people make is thinking that confidence must be performed. They believe it's about entering a room and making sure everyone notices them, about talking with force, about using grand gestures and commanding attention. But what they fail to understand is that the loudest voice in the room is rarely the most powerful. True confidence is far quieter, yet it dominates far more. It does not need to prove itself. It simply exists, and its presence alone changes the atmosphere. The man who is truly confident is not competing for the eyes of others. He does not scan the room to see who is watching him, nor does he adjust his behavior to meet expectations. He moves with a steadiness that is impossible to fake, because it is not rehearsed. It is who he is. This kind of confidence is unshakable because it does not depend on the validation or approval of others. The opinions of the crowd may shift like the wind. He remains the mountain that the wind cannot move. This steadiness is not born from arrogance, but from a deep understanding of self. A person who has examined their strengths and weaknesses, who has faced failure and humiliation without being destroyed by it, becomes immune to the small games that trap the average man. They do not need to shout about their abilities because their track record speaks louder than words ever could. They have nothing to prove, and that makes them dangerous in the eyes of those who rely on intimidation or social performance to hold power. The unshakable carry themselves with a calm that unsettles the insecure. In a world obsessed with constant reaction, with quick answers, defensive comebacks, and the desperate need to correct every slight, the truly confident remain composed. They understand that reacting to every provocation is a sign of fragility, not strength. They don't let the moods, insults, or praise of others dictate their actions. This makes them immune to manipulation, because they cannot be pulled into a game they did not choose to play. When such a person speaks, people listen, not because they have demanded it, but because their silence beforehand has created weight in their words. A voice that is not used for meaningless chatter becomes valuable when it finally enters the air. The insecure try to dominate by speaking more. The unshakable dominate by knowing when to speak less. Each word is measured, deliberate, and delivered with the kind of certainty that leaves no room for argument. This kind of quiet power works in both the public and private spheres. In negotiations, the unshakable will sit in silence while others reveal their desperation. In relationships, they will not beg for attention or prove their worth through constant displays. Their value is already known, and if it isn't, they don't feel the need to advertise it. This creates a pull effect. People move toward them because they sense stability, self-respect, and control. The reason this form of confidence is so rare is because it requires inner work that cannot be faked. Leadness can be imitated. Flashiness can be purchased, but an unshakable presence comes only from repeatedly surviving situations that would have broken most people. It is forged in restraint when anger burns, in patience when urgency presses, in holding one's ground when pressure mounts. It is the product of mastering one's emotions, one's impulses, and one's need to be seen. And here is where the true difference lies. The man who seeks to prove his confidence to others is still dependent on them. The man who needs no audience has already won. He understands that the only opinion that truly matters is his own, and from that foundation, he moves through the world without fear. The insecure crave the spotlight. The unshakable know they are the fire that draws the light toward them without ever needing to chase it. The unshakable do not build their identity around being accepted. They can walk into a room full of hostility and still hold their composure because their sense of worth is not up for negotiation. This is why they are so often underestimated at first. They do not announce their dominance, but reveal it when it matters most. And when that moment comes, they do not falter because they are not acting. They are simply being exactly what they have always been: immovable. Silence is one of the most underestimated weapons a person can possess. Most people treat silence as an absence, a gap to be filled, a void that feels uncomfortable. They rush to speak because the quiet makes them uneasy, and in doing so, they often give away more than they realize. Those who understand the true nature of power know that silence is not emptiness. It is presence. It is strategy. It is control. When you speak less, every word you do choose to speak gains weight. The average person wastes their voice on meaningless chatter, revealing their emotions, intentions, and weaknesses without restraint. They answer questions they were never truly asked. They clarify points no one needed clarified. They expose their fears in their tone, their insecurities in their explanations. But the one who knows the power of measured silence guards their words like gold. Every time they choose not to speak, they keep others in uncertainty. And uncertainty is the seed of influence. Silence forces others to project their own thoughts into the gap you leave. They wonder what you're thinking, what you're planning, what you might do next. And in that wondering, they start negotiating with themselves before they've even spoken to you. The skilled understand this. Once people start trying to guess your mind, they are already under your control. Words make your position clear. Silence keeps your position hidden until the moment you choose to reveal it. Measured silence is not the same as passive silence. Passive silence is born of fear, the inability to speak up, the lack of courage to voice an opinion. Measured silence, however, is deliberate. It is a conscious choice to withhold when speaking would weaken your position. In a negotiation, it can pressure the other side into speaking more, revealing more, offering more. In a confrontation, it can unnerve your opponent, forcing them to question whether they have miscalculated. In leadership, it can create an aura of wisdom and mystery, making your words seem worth more because they are rare. In social situations, silence can flip the dynamic entirely. The one who speaks the least often becomes the one who is listened to the most. People are naturally drawn to those who do not give themselves away easily. They want to know more. And in wanting, they begin to value your attention. The person who constantly talks loses value because they give themselves freely to everyone. But the one who remains measured, speaking only when necessary and only after careful thought, is remembered long after the conversation ends. Silence is also a tool for reading others. When you resist the urge to fill the air with your own words, you give space for others to expose themselves. They will tell you about their ambitions, their fears, their mistakes, simply because they cannot stand the quiet. And while they are busy filling the space, you are collecting information, observing patterns, and positioning yourself advantageously. This is why the most dangerous people in any room are not always the ones speaking. Often, they are the ones quietly watching, letting others reveal far more than they should. There is also a psychological strength in measured silence. It demonstrates that you are not desperate for validation, not afraid of what others might think if you don't respond immediately. It shows composure, discipline, and control over your own impulses. Most people speak too quickly because they feel the need to defend themselves, to explain, to prove something. But the truly confident know that silence can be the sharpest reply to an insult and the strongest stance in the face of provocation. Those who master this understand timing. They know when to break the silence, not too soon, not too late. When their words finally come, they are more impactful because they arrive after anticipation has been built. A short, decisive statement after a long pause can land with more force than 100 hurried sentences. This is the art of giving silence as much value as speech itself. The power of measured silence lies in the fact that it cannot be easily countered. People can argue with your words, they can twist them, misinterpret them, or use them against you. But they cannot fight with what you have not given them. They cannot dismantle a position you have not revealed. And in that gap, in that controlled absence, you hold the upper hand without even lifting a finger. Most people are prisoners of their emotions. A single insult can throw them into anger. A small setback can push them into despair. A little praise can inflate their ego beyond control. They rise and fall like leaves tossed by the wind, completely at the mercy of whatever moment they find themselves in. Those who possess true confidence have mastered a different skill, the art of emotional neutrality. They do not live in constant reaction to the world around them. Instead, they decide when, how, and if they will respond at all. Emotional neutrality does not mean the absence of feelings. It means that feelings are under control, never given the reins. It is the ability to feel anger without acting on it recklessly, to feel excitement without losing focus, to feel disappointment without collapsing into hopelessness. It is a calm center that remains unshaken no matter what storm rages outside. This calm is not weakness. It is the foundation of strength. For if your emotions control you, anyone who can provoke them controls you as well. The untrained mind sees provocation and instantly reacts because the ego demands satisfaction. An insult arrives, and the insecure person lashes out to defend themselves. A challenge appears, and they rush forward without thinking, desperate to prove something. The problem is that such reactions are predictable, and predictability can be exploited. The one who remains emotionally neutral becomes far harder to manipulate. They can stand in the middle of chaos and weigh their options without the fog of rage or the intoxication of pride clouding their judgment. In moments of pressure, emotional neutrality creates clarity. Imagine a heated negotiation where tempers rise, voices sharpen, and tension grows heavy in the air. Most people's decision-making would deteriorate under such stress. But the emotionally neutral hold steady, listening, observing, waiting for the precise moment to act. Their stillness makes others restless, and in that restlessness, mistakes are made. This is the silent advantage. By not reacting, you force others to reveal their hand before you reveal yours. In everyday life, this mastery creates an unshakable presence. When others see that you cannot be baited, they begin to treat you differently. They approach you with more caution, more respect, sometimes even with a hint of fear. It is not because you threaten them directly, but because they sense they cannot control the terms of interaction with you. You operate on your own rhythm, and that independence makes you unpredictable, which is precisely what keeps you in control. This discipline also extends to moments of success. The insecure man lets victory go to his head, becoming reckless in his confidence. The emotionally neutral, however, treat success with the same composure as defeat. They understand that both are temporary, and neither should disrupt their balance. This prevents them from falling into complacency or arrogance, two states that have destroyed far more men than failure ever has. Another dimension of emotional neutrality is patience. In a world addicted to speed, patience is rare, and rare traits are powerful. Those who can wait without frustration can often outlast their competition. They don't rush into bad deals because they feel the pressure of time. They don't make declarations in the heat of emotion that they later regret. They let others exhaust themselves while they remain steady, conserving their energy for the moment when it will count most. In relationships, emotional neutrality removes desperation. The man who cannot tolerate silence will chase it away with neediness. The man who cannot handle disapproval will bend himself into whatever shape pleases others. But the one who is neutral can let people walk away if they choose, because his stability is not tied to their presence. This detachment is magnetic. People feel drawn to those who do not seem to need them, because need creates pressure, while independence creates intrigue. It is easy to fake confidence when everything is going well. The real test comes when things go wrong. When you are insulted publicly, when you are betrayed, when you lose something you valued. The ones who remain outwardly calm in such moments are not suppressing weakness. They have removed the need to perform at all. Their emotions do not spill out for the world to see, and because they keep them contained, they retain the power to decide their next move without interference from impulse. This mastery cannot be developed overnight. It is trained over time by deliberately choosing not to react, by practicing stillness in the face of provocation, by learning to observe your own emotions without obeying them. Each time you resist the pull to respond immediately, you strengthen your control. Each time you refuse to be rushed, you expand your patience. And over time, you will find that the chaos of the world no longer pulls you in. Instead, you stand apart from it, untouchable. The most dangerous people in any room are never the ones who put all their cards on the table. They are the ones who hold something back, a thought, a plan, an intention, while letting others believe they have seen the full picture. Strategic self-containment is the art of revealing just enough to move forward while keeping your real position hidden. It is the discipline of never allowing others complete access to your mind, your emotions, or your true objectives. Most people operate with the opposite approach. They share too much, too soon, because they mistake openness for strength. They believe that the more others know about them, the more trust and connection they will build. But in reality, every detail you give away is a piece of leverage that can be used against you. The one who speaks too freely is constantly arming potential opponents with information they did not have to earn. The one who practices self-containment forces others to work for every piece of insight they gain. And in that effort, they reveal far more about themselves than you ever reveal in return. Strategic self-containment is not about coldness or complete withdrawal. It is about precision. You choose what to share, when to share it, and how much to share. You may speak openly in one area to distract from another, or you may reveal part of the truth to hide the whole. Every disclosure is deliberate, never accidental. This way, even in conversation, you control the flow of information like a commander rationing supplies. Giving enough to keep the interaction moving, but never enough to leave yourself vulnerable. The power of this approach becomes obvious in high-stakes situations. In negotiations, the self-contained individual never reveals their full range of options. They might appear to be deciding between two choices, while in reality, they have three others ready. This forces the opposing side to calculate based on incomplete data, often leading them to make costly errors. In personal relationships, strategic self-containment keeps emotional balance intact. The moment someone knows exactly what to say to get a reaction from you, they own part of you. By keeping certain emotions and intentions private, you ensure that no one can play you like an instrument. Self-containment also makes you unpredictable. Predictability is a weakness because it allows others to plan around you. When people think they know your every move, you have already lost the element of surprise. But when they cannot quite read you, when your next action is uncertain, they are forced to hesitate, and hesitation is the ally of power. This unpredictability is not achieved by randomness, but by intentional concealment of patterns. You allow others to see only what you want them to see, and often, what they see is a carefully placed distraction. The disciplined practice of self-containment requires the ability to sit comfortably with the discomfort of not being fully understood. Most people cannot bear this. They want to correct every false impression, to explain themselves, to make sure everyone sees them accurately. But the one who understands the game knows that being misunderstood can be a strategic advantage. Let others think you are weaker than you are. Let them believe they have the full measure of you. This false confidence will lead them to make mistakes, all while you keep your true depth hidden. In everyday interactions, self-containment shapes the way you communicate. You speak with layers. What is on the surface is never the whole truth. You might share an opinion without revealing the reasoning behind it, or tell a story that entertains without giving away personal vulnerabilities. This keeps you in the position of the observer rather than the observed. It also encourages others to speak more openly in your presence because they feel they are leading the conversation, when in reality, you are guiding it by the pace and direction of your responses. The psychological strength of self-containment lies in independence. When you no longer feel the need to be fully transparent with everyone you meet, you free yourself from the trap of seeking approval. You no longer hand over your inner world for public evaluation. Your motives, plans, and emotional states remain your own, untouched by the opinions or judgments of others. This makes you harder to manipulate because no one can exploit what they cannot see. Strategic self-containment is also a form of self-respect. It is an acknowledgement that not everyone deserves access to every part of you. Just as a fortress keeps its gates closed except to those who have earned trust, you learn to guard your personal, emotional, and intellectual resources. In doing so, you maintain a sense of mystery, and mystery is a form of power. It draws curiosity, commands attention, and forces others to work harder to engage with you. The more effort they must put in, the more invested they become, and the more control you ultimately hold over the exchange. The world is full of people who reveal themselves completely, hoping that transparency will protect them. But the truth is that total openness makes you exposed, predictable, and easy to dismantle. Those who rise to positions of influence understand that concealment is not dishonesty. It is survival. It is the quiet discipline of protecting your core so that you can move through the world with freedom, strength, and the ability to act without interference. Confidence, in its purest and most unshakable form, is never a performance. It is not the volume of your voice, the flash of your presence, or the number of eyes on you. It is the steady core that remains unmoved no matter who doubts you, the discipline to hold your tongue when silence serves you better, the mastery over emotions, so they cannot be weaponized against you, and the strength to guard parts of yourself from the world's reach. The truly confident move through life without chasing recognition or pleading for validation. They bend situations to their advantage not through noise, through control of themselves, their words, their reactions, and their secrets. This kind of power cannot be borrowed, imitated, or bought. It must be built, piece by piece, in the quiet hours when no one is watching, until it becomes so deeply ingrained that nothing and no one can shake it from you. Those who understand this will never need to prove they are confident. They will simply live in a way that makes others feel it, without a single declaration. In a world desperate to be seen, they will be the ones worth noticing. Not because they demand attention, but because they command it.